Okay, I put a video in a week. Thank you for your patience. In the 500 days that Genshin's been out, I've taken less than 10 days off work, so I probably should have taken a little bit more time. So thank you for your patience. I needed some time. So this video, we're gonna be talking about Ayato. We're gonna be talking about Raiden Shogun, Kokomi, Kazuha, and which one is going to be the best for your overall box. And we're going to be talking about characters and what in team compositions and how they're going to fit into those team compositions. And we're going to be talking about the things that are problems for the current characters, what you're going to need, and all the things that you should probably know. I actually spent a little bit too much time recording this video, and I thought about an hour and a half of recordings that I had to delete, so I created this is now the condensed version. See a full version of what we talk about as far as these things go. You're going to be live on twitch.tv/Sekapoko, and you can discuss those things there. And I stream literally every single day. So yesterday on my stream, we were talking about a bunch of different characters, including Ayato. And the characters that we wanted to focus on the most are, of course, Kazuha, Yae Miko, Raiden Shogun, Kokomi. And because these characters are going to be coming out relatively soon, because their rerun banners are kind of following where we're currently at in the structure. And of course, we have the Raiden Shogun and Kokomi banners happening right now. What I want to talk about first is going to be Raiden Shogun and Kokomi very briefly, and then we're going to talk about the other characters. So first off, Raiden Shogun is a character, if you have played her, really fun, very good, but an entirely unnecessary character when building team compositions, and really fulfills the role of basically giving your team a nice little bump of energy recharge. The main thing that Raiden Shogun provides to your team is a nice amount of energy, and the amount of energy varies depending on exactly how much energy recharge you have on your Raiden. Personally, I think that giving your Raiden actually too much energy recharge is a misstep, because then you end up going into the realm where she doesn't do enough damage, but your team gets more energy recharge. But you're basically funneling your energy recharge to one character when you still need energy recharge on your other characters. And the reason you're still gonna need energy recharge on your other characters is because the energy that Raiden Shogun provides is actually going to be not affected by the other teammates' energy recharge, which is still going to make them need energy. So the two major team compositions that are going to be kind of reliant on building for Raiden Shogun are going to be variants of team compositions that kind of look like this or like this. And these are the two major compositions for Raiden Shogun, with filler units in here as well as filler units for Kazuha, depending on exactly how you're going to be building the teams. The other composition that, of course, is the most popular composition for Raiden Shogun is the Raiden Shogun National Team, and this team in general is an extremely powerful team, but it does suck up all your really amazing supports. And in fact, any other character that you can think of in Genshin will fit in this slot right here, and Raiden Shogun is not actually a necessary character in the team composition, but is just quite good. But in comparison to a character like Kazuha, I find her to be a character that does fulfill a niche, and that niche being energy recharge that's missing for your team compositions. For example, if you're a player that does not want to run an energy recharge stance and not going for a ridiculous amount of energy recharge on your characters, of course, you're going to need a lot more energy recharge. But the thing is that Bennett is like the characters that she's going to be running with, like Bennett, are going to have a lot of energy recharge regardless of the context, and you're going to want a ridiculous amount on him just so you can not play on the character as much. And other characters like Xingqiu are going to have an innate amount of energy recharge because you're going to want to use the sacrificial sword on them, unless you are a player that wants to use a really amazing weapon like the Jade Cutter on your Xingqiu in order to get a lot more damage. And I find this to be a very interesting context, because now the players that are looking to use Raiden Shogun on the teams are using this character in order so that they can use 5-star weapons on 4-star characters and actually not use as many energy recharge amounts on those characters, so that you can use these characters with different weapons, when the existing compositions will do similar damage, if not more damage, in other contexts. So if you're a player that wants to switch from 4-star weapons or switch off energy recharge based weapons on your supporting characters, and then switch those to basically 5-star weapons with a lot of crit chance and crit damage, and go for like Staff of Homa on a Zhang Ling, as well as like a Jade Cutter on a Xingqiu, if you wanted to do that, that's where you're going to need a Raiden Shogun. And of course, the only other character that it's extremely necessary to have Raiden Shogun because of how good she is of course with Eula. So if you are a Eula main, this is a needed character in my opinion, because overall Eula has a major issue with energy recharge, that even if you build for a lot of energy recharge on, she does not get enough energy. And if you don't have Raiden Shogun, if you don't want to use summon for Raiden Shogun or use Raiden Shogun, you also have access to Fischl, who has a very good battery in general. And of course you have Beidou if your battery is already sufficient on your teams and you just want to get more damage. But otherwise, it's kind of an unnecessary character based upon the weapon sets that you already have in the Genshin. Whereas a character like Kazuha is a character that's going to be boosting your entire team by a whopping 40% elemental damage if you give him to 1,000 elemental mastery, which you can get over 800 just from using an Iron Sting, as well as 3 main stat pieces that you can actually just get by farming pretty much the VV domain over and over again, but you don't even need the most amazing stuff. As you can see, I still haven't upgraded mine to on my whale account because it doesn't actually matter. The main thing with Kazuha is that if you're a player that already has Venti and your box kind of looks like this, and you're thinking, I have Venti and Sucrose, a lot of people on the first go around of Kazuha said, hey, I don't need Kazuha because I have Venti and Sucrose. On my stream, we call these people Kazuha regretters, because all of them try to tell themselves, you know what, I could just use Sucrose with the Thrilly Tales of the Dragon at Constellation 6 and it's fine, right? Because it'll provide more damage. The thing about Venti is a lot of people use Venti for early floors of Spiral Abyss for grouping Hilichurls and very easy to kill enemies. The thing about Venti is that even if he's a character that's good on grouping, why not use a character that actually boosts damage at the same time as grouping characters? I think that Kazuha is a character that you're probably going to want to pick up in general, just because elemental damage boosting is not strictly based upon elemental mastery that Sucrose provides. You probably want to have elemental damage boosting as well, because it will provide other characters with damage, which means it's going to actually be really good for characters that are not just elemental burst based characters and characters that are going to be using elemental skill. For example, a character like Yae Miko is a character that does not entirely rely on elemental burst and actually relies very heavily on elemental skill. Because she relies so heavily on elemental skill, there are going to be other future characters that are going to move away from an elemental burst meta, or characters going to go toward normal tech meta. For example, we're going to be talking about the next character that's going to be coming out, which is going to be Tartaglia V2, or the best character since sliced bread, which is going to be Ayato. With Kamisato Ayato, I've been wanting to stay away from leaks on YouTube. I typically talk about like some cursory information on my stream about leaks, but we typically don't talk about leaks on the channel, even though a lot of other YouTubers go down that route. I'm talking about leaks. Now, I don't want to spoil you on leaks, but based upon just this imagery here, you can clearly see that Ayato is a character that's going to infuse his sword with Hydro, which means he's going to be a normal or charge attacker, or even a plunger. We can say that he's probably going to be a main DPS. And there are two other characters in Genshin that we need to talk about, because if he's going to be an auto attack based DPS, he's going to be a character very similar to Tartaglia. If you are a Tartaglia main and you end up going full send for a Tartaglia and then building him out and going for crazy ratios on Tartaglia, you know, like over 100% crit chance, I'm kidding. You know that going for Tartaglia is going to be one of those things that you really want to do, but he's very limiting in team compositions. In fact, the major team composition that he's used in is going to be a team that's very similar to this, with Xingqiu is actually just replaced with a character like Tartaglia. But the funny thing is that Tartaglia as a character does not really fulfill a better role than Xingqiu in this overall build, except that the fact that he looks way fucking cooler. The big problem that a lot of people have with Tartaglia, though, and this is the huge thing, is that Tartaglia's damage isn't the best. I hear a lot of conflicting information about Tartaglia, about how he can be really good, how he's really good, he's a really good enabler, and I hear a lot of things about that. But what if Tartaglia was a character that had crazy damage on Hydro application, but then also did not need to vaporize or use any kind of mechanics to actually deal damage? That's the kind of character that I think Ayato is going to be. I feel like a lot of whales really talk about how good Tartaglia is in team compositions for speedrunning, and I see a lot of players that try to use Tartaglia. The really interesting thing I find about Tartaglia in Spiral Abyss is so interesting is that most players that use Tartaglia end up using the new Polar Star weapon or the Skyward Harp, and that's about 50% of players that actually play the character will use a 5-star weapon, and less than that will use a Rust. And most people that play Genshin Impact that play Tartaglia have access to a 5-star weapon. And if you're a player that is not looking for a 5-star weapon based character, I can tell you this about Tartaglia: every C0 Tartaglia main with a Rust doesn't really feel like Tartaglia is an impactful character, because they'll call him a character like an enabler in order to make him feel really good. And I can tell you this about the Rust. It's like, I recently did an account review for a Tartaglia main that was using a Blacklift Warboat Refined 5, and then another one that was using a Rust at R5, and another one that was using a Viridescent Hunt. I played multiple different characters, variants of the character that we're using, very high crit chance and crit damage builds. But with all of these sets, I can tell you that Tartaglia does not feel like an impactful, damaging character at Constellation 0 with a 4-star weapon. He just does not bring damage to the table. He turns into a Kokomi kind of character, and it feels pretty much exactly the same as far as overall damage and application as a Kokomi with a prototype Amber, even though he has this quadratic scaling mechanic that you can't even utilize properly because your damage percentage is so low. And because you're not reacting on Tartaglia, because you're trying to enable characters like Zhang Ling to react, you're actually not getting a ton of damage out of him on 4-star weapons. So I think what's going to happen is that Ayato is going to be a version of Tartaglia that does extremely impactful damage while you actually feel like he's on the field doing the work instead of enabling your Zhang Ling to deal damage, which means he's going to be like the Tartaglia version 2, but gonna be doing damage potentially, I hope, kind of like Yoimiya does damage. And the reason I wanted to bring up Yoimiya is a lot of people talk about how bad this character is. So on my free-to-play account, I am a Yoimiya main. Now, I do use a Rust, and the reason I want to talk about this in context to Ayato is because I hope this character is very similar to Yoimiya. A character with a very, very specific artifact set for the character that can use really medium range ratios and a 4-star weapon to do extremely well. Because if he's going to be anything similar to Yoimiya as far as overall damage, what I'm going to say to the character is that if this character can do damage like this while enabling another character like Zhang Ling or Xingqiu, like just like this, then you can do crazy high damage. That would be awesome, and I would very much enjoy that. Because if we can utilize new supports like Yunjin to make these characters even better, and use Bennett to make our existing characters already stronger than they currently are, that would be amazing. And I only have C3 Yunjin too, so I don't have the attack speed part, so that's gonna be really cool. So I want Ayato to be a character kind of like Yoimiya, because if he's a character that can do a large amount of damage while enabling other characters to do damage at the same time with an elemental skill that actually works into making the character do more damage on their normal attack, that would be an amazing character. And that's going to be a character that you're going to want to summon for, because the fact of the matter is, going forward for characters, we're looking at a lot less characters that are going to be based upon elemental burst. And I think the meta is going to start shifting to more elemental skill and normal attack. Because only relying on elemental burst characters can get you into trouble when there's a lot of energy sap mechanics that are currently in Enkamoya and other energy sap mechanics that will be coming out in the future. We don't know what the future is on Dendro because we don't know what the reaction is going to enable, but there might be some type of energy sap mechanics that could be along with Dendro that could actually make it so that normal attackers are going to be the forefront of the game. So you may want to be using normal attackers like Ayato in the future, and that seems like a really safe pickup. Plus, he's not pyro, so he's not going to burn grass, so he's not going to light you on fire and you're not going to die from it. But if you're wondering who to summon for in Genshin as far as the character goes, take this into consideration for the characters you're going to be building for team compositions and what you're going to be needing for your overall account. Because the last thing that we're going to talk about is Dendro. And Dendro is the only element that we do not currently have. And I believe we're going to get the Dendro Traveler for entirely free, because we got every other Traveler for free. And we're probably going to get another Dendro character along with it that may come in an event around the same time as 3.0. So we may actually get a few Dendro characters to start with, and just as a heads up, probably need to save some 5-star artifacts for the artifact exchanger. So make sure while you're in Genshin Impact, don't burn to death by using your Pyro DPS while on grass in Sumero. You probably want to switch to a Hydro character or a Cryo character or something else in general, because you're going to probably want to switch off Pyro in general for Sumero, because burning sucks. Because I don't really feel like switching back accounts, regarding Yae Miko as well as Kokomi, Yae Miko is an unnecessary character in team compositions because she's easily replaced by both Fischl and Baidu as far as characters go. So if you do want to pick her up just for waifu status, yeah, she's quite fun to play, but it's completely unnecessary. And a character like Kokomi is a character that you're not necessarily going to need unless you want more Hydra application for freeze compositions, or if you just really needed a character to enable other team compositions in general. She's quite a good character for new players in Genshin, because if you are going to be using her, she can actually be used quite well up to level 40 and actually carry you through the entire game, and is an HP based character that you can get a lot of easy artifacts for out of her own domain. I find Kokomi to be one of the fun characters in Genshin to actually play, and really good tank god that really just never dies. So if you're needing that, if you want to tank DPS, that's what she does. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. I know it's not long-winded. My name is Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, of course, like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Let me know what you guys are summoning for in the comment section down below.